And now back to Bobby LIkis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby LIkis.
Ross, welcome to Bobby LIkis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Yes, thank you, Bobby,
My pleasure,
for your
sir.
show.
Thank you.
I have a F-150 2002, and until runs great. It's a V8, except for we had a lot of rain and flooding in where I live, and I drove through some puddles at low speed and some at high speed, unknowingly at high speed on the interstate. But anyway, since that time, it runs like on 2, 3, 4, 5 cylinders. It kind of sputters, like it tries to run, but it doesn't quite get there all the way. And it's been a couple days now, and I've been hoping whatever it was, maybe it'd dry out, but it's still behaving the same, and the check engine light is on steady, and sometimes it gets angry and flashes at me, and it kind of smells kind of weird under the engine or under the hood. But anyway, it looks like I need to do something with it.
Yeah, you do. And perchance, have you opened the air box to look at the air filter?
No, I haven't opened the hood yet.
Okay, well, you got to do that. And I'm trying to think of things that you can do, and because I'm not going to give you suggestions that I believe would get you in over your head or possibly cause more problems than you have. But number one, it's relatively easy to do. By all means, you should pop the and pop is I take that back. You should remove the air. I mean, on some cars there are 6 or 8 screws, and some cars are really tough to get to the air box and get to the air filter. But the F-150 is not one of them. You should be able to do that. By all means, remove the air filter and probably replace it, depending on what you find. If it's wet, then that is blocking the airflow, and the engine will never run correctly. It's like choking, like put your hand over your mouth, and heaven forbid that should happen to me. But so that's the first thing that I would check. The second thing I would check, of course, would be to pull the dipstick, make sure there's no water in the engine. I doubt that there is, because you know, unless you ingested water, it still wouldn't get in the crankcase. It would get into into the lungs of the engine, and that's where it's potential for really damage. But here's what I really think. So that's what you're to do this afternoon, is to look at the air cleaner, and then if you need an air cleaner, I recommend O'Reilly Auto Parts, and they're on a lot of areas in your neck of the woods. So that's the second thing. Now, here's what I truly believe has happened. I believe the coils have gotten water down in the spark plug wells and shorted the coils, and that check engine light being on tells me, and we do this quite regularly, even on a good day. I mean, it doesn't have to have a flood, but we check coils, and you probably will have the check engine light, and it will say misfire on cylinder number 4, or misfire on cylinders number 2 and 4. Here's the challenge. So let's just say that it's cylinder number 2 and 4, or no, let's define it. Let's just say it's number 4. So you replace the coil on number 4 and put a new spark plug in number 4, or a shop does, and clears the code, and you drive it, and then in 10 minutes later, or 10 miles later, or 2 days later, the check engine light comes on, and it says random misfire. Random. And therein lies, Ross, my concern for your particular Ford or Lincoln Mercury, all those same products. When the computer says random, it means that cylinder number 4, number 8, number 2, number 1, number 6, it can't make up its mind. So in this case, and this is important for you to know, there is an option. You can use aftermarket parts, which are made, by the way, by the same company in most applications that made the part for the OEM to start with, for Ford to start with, and save probably 40% of the cost to replace the coils. Were it my 02 F-150, I would do some fluid changes. I would replace the air filter. I would replace all of the coils and spark plugs in that vehicle, and I would warn you that on some of those modular engines, Ford had the afterthought, really, but they had an idea of using a special spark plug that can break off because it has an extended shield that makes the spark occur deeper into the combustion chamber, which is a great idea, except that carboned over the spark plug, and the spark plugs will break and separate, and you have to use a tool, and you don't want to go there. So I just want you to know that that's what I truly believe is going to take to fix your car: a set of coils, spark plugs, and the miscellaneous that goes with what used to be a tune-up years ago, but now there's no such thing as a quote tune-up. Any questions?
Yeah. Well, I can handle the air cleaner air filter project.
Yeah.
But it's due for an oil change anyway, so I think I'll just bring it in for service.
Well, I think that's the safest thing to do, and especially one of the challenges that happens with that particular vehicle, by the way, and with all new cars, is that when you have a coil that shorts, that means that you got 100,000 volts. And rather than to jump the gap in a spark plug, it goes through the insulation in the coil and goes to ground. So that cylinder, bloop, 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 misfires because it doesn't get the fire. And the problem is there's some residual voltage feedback that on occasion can affect other electrical components of an automobile. So this is not one of those when you get round to it. This is one of those you stop and take care of it now. And last but not least, I think that you should advise your insurance carrier that you may have damage from the vehicle, and I'll share this with you. There are two kinds of damages. There's there's damage caused by water or by hitting something. And the reason I bring this up is that we had an officer in our facility just this week that had knocked his car out of alignment and bent some parts because he hit a high-speed water on the interstate. Ross, thank you for calling. Best of luck to you folks. That's all for this hour of Bobby. It flew by. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby LIkis Car Clinic. Bobby LIkis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.